Greetings, everyone. Richard Solomon with an all-star co-host cast. We have Rick Frishman. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Richard. How are you? Good to be with you again.
Love you. Antonio Saillant from Rocket Green Productions.
Hey, Richard. How are you?
And our special guest is Adam Lazar. And Adam Lazar, tell us the name of your company and what is so magical about what you do as far as being an environmentalist and an entrepreneur all at the same time.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Asarasi is really showing the world a renewable and sustainable source of pure water from a plant-based source that allows us to take water from a sustainable, renewable source in plants that doesn't deplete our groundwater table, while incentivizing the consumer to pay for a new water product, perhaps the purest form of water in the world, that also incentives economically maple producers all over North America. Everybody wins. The consumer pays the same price for what they buy today. In exchange, maple farmers win, and our company grows. So it's a very complementary cycle, and that's what we're doing.
And I tasted the product, and it actually has a great taste because it's so clean. It's just so clean. So
thank you.
Wow.
Adam, just talk up a little louder if you can, okay? Because we'll make sure we get all the talk as loud as you can. Okay, Antonio, you had a question.
Yeah, Adam, I'm a very sustainable guy, and I do like green festivals. I do speeches all over the country and universities. And when I saw your website, I was completely blown away because I heard of everything. Growing your own food, and, Richard and me has been interviewing a lot of interesting people, but I found your product very interesting. And I'm curious to know, how did you find this whole idea, and how did you know that, it had to do with the maple tree? I mean, do other trees have water, or is it just a specific type of tree?
Yeah, so, I think I guess you have two questions there, and I'll answer the first one first, is how did I come across this? What's the aha moment or the genesis of the idea? And the second question being, can we do this or expand upon this in more than one species? And, I think, we all have opportunities that are all around us, and frankly, we just don't have the unique sets of experiences that allow us to view an opportunity with eyes wide open. And I happen to have a unique set of experiences that led me to see this opportunity. I'd walked into a maple producer's farm in the spring of 2008 with my daughter, getting cabin fever and saying, okay, we can't go to the mall or one more restaurant one more time. Let's get in the car and get lost. And, found myself at this maple open house and seeing this maple producer produce, millions of gallons of the sap that he just spent thousands of hours in the woods and all year preparing for to create his syrup harvest. And I see this 6-inch drain coming out of his reverse osmosis machine where he was separating the sugar from the sap and throwing away this voluminous, thousands of gallons an hour, almost 4,000 gallons an hour out of this one piece of equipment. And I asked the farmer, what are you doing with that? And what is that? And I'm a very, environmentally thinking guy. I'm not Superman, but I try. And, and he says, oh, no, it's just water. And I thought, oh, municipal water. What's this? He says, no, this is the water we remove from the saps. This is really, heavy water weight in this product. We got to get that water content out in order to make syrup. And I said, well, why don't you do anything with it? He said, so who'd want it? It's just water. And I said, oh, my God, the light bulb went off. I looked at the farmer. I said, would you sell that to me? And he kind of laughed at me like it was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. And it didn't occur to me that was ridiculous because, he was looking at it from a perspective of for a 55-gallon drum of syrups. If you were to compare that to oil, it's like, 100 times more valuable than oil. Right. They call syrup liquid gold. And I said, geez, how much is there? So I, immediately ran home and wrote this business plan. We had, Mr. New MBA. I couldn't resist. And And I started looking into the numbers of species. You can look up wild foodism on the internet, and you'll find there's about 22 species of trees that you can actually tap for their saps, edible saps, and most of them are high value sugar, and high volume water. And so when you look at different species, you have ash and box alder and all the maple species, the birch species. So you have 22 total different species, and this can happen basically in a ring around the globe between the 45th parallel. So it's something that can be done across the globe, which gives us a really interesting scalable model. When you look at the amount of availability in this resource, and you look at 18,000 farms doing this just in maple, the statistic from the Forest Service says that only 3% of all the accessible maple, that doesn't touch any other species, is tapped. And there's over 1 billion gallons byproduct in this industry. So that's only 3% of the resource. So we have this wonderful resource available to us that we can touch.
Now, does it harm the tree at all? Does it do any
great
harm?
question. No, in fact, it's like donating blood. What does it do to your immune system? It builds immunity. It builds better resistance to disease and other threats against your immune system. In the same or similar way, when you tap a tree for its sugar and sap content, we take about 6% of the available saps out of the tree. And this is a sustainably done process because the farmers, they're managing their forests. And so, what good is it them to do if they harm the trees in the process? So it increases the disease and pest resistance of the plant. And this is going to naturally transpire through their crown and out of its, bark system and trunk system, whether you tap it or not. So we're literally tapping into an ecosystem that's giving it to us at a point in the tree where we can access it versus waiting for it to be transpired through its crown where we can no longer capture that. So it's a really, it's like a living well.
Wow. Now, how clean is that water? Because it seems like it's almost pure.
Well, yeah, the root structure of the tree. So here's the beauty of sustainability in this model. So the root structure takes in moisture from the earth that would never reach our groundwater table, because it's drinking from the earth, and it's transpiring that water through its crown, right? And that happens in an average maple tree in the height of July. You're talking about a gallon a minute being consumed by that one tree in the heat of July. So, a standard tree will consume several 100,000 gallons of water on a yearly basis in one tree. And that's water that you never ever see hit the groundwater table. So tapping into it, really gives us this access to this wonderful resource. And the tree purifies the water that it's absorbed from its root system through its trunk, and ultimately gives us, basically when we extract it, we get 4 elements. We get, besides the water itself. So we get pure water, which then has sugar, which is the maple sugar, which is then removed by reverse osmosis. And then we have 3 other elements, potassium, manganese, and calcium, which are naturally occurring in the tree. And so we have, if you were to make a comparison to other pure water products or supposedly pure water products in the market, we are 10 times purer in terms of our mineral and dissolved solid content than any other product on the market today.
Have you eyed doing any of this with like agave or anything else, which is sort of some kind of either nectar or sap that's already in production somewhere else?
In terms of flavoring or looking at other sap products to bottle up?
The last question. To see if
I think there's opportunity to look at. There is a sap industry out there, so you'll see products like maple water in the marketplace. Coconut water, arguably a tree water. You would see other supposed plant-based waters that are very nutrient-rich or sugar-rich or carbohydrate-rich. But at the end of the day, those are positioned in the market space with a very finite shelf life that reaches a health-conscious consumer with deep wallet. And they really don't have an impact on the bottled water space because they're not looking to, and they really can't. Those resources either take away from other areas of opportunity for farms or have other impacts on industry that challenge the industry to either do this or do that. Because we're a value-added product, we can take a pure water product that is considered a byproduct that they don't have a use for and add value to the marketplace and position it in such a way that is really opportunistic. The consumer gets a truly plant-based water that can sit next to a Pellegrino or Perrier, and Asarasi can be that new kind of category of plant-based waters that is truly just pure water. But without compromising other ecosystems in the process and without compromising your wallet. So for $1.50 a bottle at retail, we can do the right thing for the environment and the right thing for our wallet as consumers.
Right now, how many thousands of gallons are you sort of capturing?
Well, this over the last 12 months, so keep in mind our company's about a year and a half old. And over the last 12 months, we bottled up over 500,000 units, and we're growing. We've partnered with over 15 farms to date in New England, and we're actively asking any maple producer to come to our website and sign up as a maple producer. Here's the other impacts that we have. We started a benefit corporation to benefit the maple farms. It's called Asarasi Farms. And the Asarasi Farms basically allows maple producers to, sign up as a supplier to Asarasi, and in exchange for their supply partnership as a benefit corp, not only do we give them a small piece of equity in the company, but we also, that allows us to pay them dividends and create a co-op-like structure around the industry at the same time. I'm using the benefit corp model to a degree that it's never been used before because it's such a new model.
Are you just blowing everybody's mind with this innovation?
Oh my, yeah.
It's interesting to hear people's reaction, and you go out there and tell your story, and people look at you like you're a three-headed monster because you just can't believe what you just told them. Because the big challenge that people have is they say, I can't believe no one's ever done this. Why has no one ever done this? The obviousness of it is so there that it smacks you in the face with common sense.
Well, timing is everything.
By the way, just for everybody listening, you said it awfully fast, but the website, just say it slowly, the spelling, so everyone listening can get it. It's Asarasi is the name of the water, and it's asarasi.com. So just nice and slow for folks listening, and we'll take you to this beautiful website where you can learn all about this product. And now, where can they get this water, by the way? On your site, I see a few different stores, but can they order directly from you as well?
We don't sell direct to public. By the time we would get it to the consumer, it would be cost ineffective, and we want to keep the price, at parity with market. So we do partner with about 10 distributors here in the New England and Atlantic states. And so, anyone in the retail space can go to their traditional distributors like UNFI or KeHE or Baldor Foods out of New York and bring it into their stores if they have customers asking for it. However, we do have relationships that are coming online right now with ShopRite. So we anticipate being in several hundred ShopRite stores in the next 30 to 60 days, and we meet again with those folks next week. So that'll be their time to place their orders and make those final commitments. Shaw's has made a commitment to put us into their star markets. Price Chopper has told us that they would carry us in a select number of their stores, and we received a nice commitment from top stores to carry us throughout their ecosystem. So we have what we estimate to be 500 to 600 or so grocery stores coming online over the next 60 to 90 days. And that's kind of, as we're growing, we're a very young company, so we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. But if you go to the website asarasi.com, asarasi.com, you can go to where to buy, and you can click on the Google pin map there, and you should be able to find any number of restaurants or stores independent retailers in your area that currently have the product. You'll be able to see, where exactly is the easiest for you to get it. So I encourage you to do that. And if you don't see a place today, keep looking for us, because you will find us. Something amazing happens every day. Morgan Stanley, out of the International Restaurant Show, came to us and said, "This is the most phenomenal, sustainable product we've seen in a long time. We want to share this with every one of our employees." So for Earth Week last week, we made the debut in all Morgan Stanley buildings in New York City, and thousands of Morgan Stanley employees can now buy us for $2 a bottle in the Morgan Stanley cafeterias. And so we find ourselves positioned in a way that companies like to show their social activism by embracing our product and sharing that with their employees. People share their social and environmental activism when they share our product and our story. And I think it's one of the reasons we're here today having our conversation with you folks.
That's awesome.
Adam, let me ask you a question, Adam. Here's the big question I want to ask. Is it bottled in glass or plastic?
Oh my God, glass, absolutely. And the obvious reason for that.
Very good.
There's a great environmental reason for that. There's a great economic reason for that. When you're in plastic, obviously the impact on the environment is terrible. Glass being silica, and it's easy to recycle infinitely, but it also gives us an indefinite shelf life in our product. So there's a good, when you look at being a sustainable business, it doesn't mean that you actually have to compromise. Sometimes you get greater benefits by being a sustainably focused company. In this case, we absolutely do get a greater benefit. So we get a longer shelf life from our product, and we also get the recyclability aspect as well.
Very good. Do you have enough capacity to handle all this growth?
We do. I mean, just today, for example, we signed up another 1 million gallons just today of water contracts with farms, and that's how excited they are to be a part of this. And to put that in perspective, you would produce somewhere around the 2.5 million cases. So you can start to see how quickly that can scale. Just in just a couple supply partnerships.
Well, that's pretty. All right, this is Richard Solomon, Antonio Saillant, and Richard Solomon with Rick Frishman. Yay! And you're listening to Taking Care of Business. We'll be right back. We're talking to Adam Lazar. And right now, Rick is in his backyard tapping one of the trees. So we'll be right back. Keep it locked in, and we'll be right back after this quick break. All right, welcome back. Richard Solomon, Rick Frishman, Antonio Saillant with Adam Lazar. And we're talking about probably one of the most exciting new sustainable businesses that we've come across in a long time, and we're very excited about it. So in continuing your story, you get all these tree farmers, the maple syrup tree guys, to give you their water. How do you then get all that water and, store it and then process it in a way that makes sense without having pipelines and
right.
Or rail cars,
It's a great question, and it's one I spent a long time noodling on. I mean, it is not an easy solution. And when I first saw this opportunity, it was 2008, so we're going back almost 10 years now. And at the time, so I thought to myself, I said, geez, this looks an awful lot like the dairy industry. But look at the infrastructure requirements that would be needed in the dairy industry. I mean, if you take the product name out of the equation and inserted the word milk, well, you would have the exact same model. Farms producing a large volume of liquid that needs to be, transported to a processing facility of, some kind that can process it safely and then bring to market this product in a way that is cost effective and scalable and efficient. And so, that was really, it wasn't anything real. It wasn't real rocket science here. It was just literally modeling after the dairy industry and saying, hey, we need people that can handle and haul this product in a safe way. That are used to high stringent quality requirements. And so that's what I did. I partnered with, farms that had a high volume byproduct to sell. We paid them great money. We paid them 10 cents a gallon for something that they were discarding with no market for before. And interestingly enough, when you do that, the farms literally doubled their profit with no added labor. We roll up a 8,000 gallon tanker to the back of their sugar shack, which is kind of the layman's term for maple processing facility. And they're processing so much that in less than an hour and a half, we're filled 8,000 gallon tanker, and that moves out to the processing facility where we then do quality checks on it upon receipt and process it for its purity, and put it through the manufacturing cycle where it's very simple. We don't really process as much at all. We add a little carbonation for mouthfeel and put it in the bottle and label and into the cartons, and out the door it goes to the storage facility where we then distribute from. So where some companies get the luxury of multiple inventory turnovers a year, we get the unlucky or unfortunate one inventory turn, but we do mitigate the risk of missed opportunity or missed forecasts by freezing. So we actually freeze a Olympic-sized swimming pool at 300-gallon ice cubes. I'd like to make the world's biggest margarita with it. If anyone's up for the challenge and go for a Guinness record. So, why don't we go for that? And you'll have me back on the show talking about the world's biggest margarita made from tree water.
I'm calling Jimmy Buffett. So,
and where's your facility, by the way? Where are you hauling all this water to process it?
Sure, we have a great partnership with actually New York's oldest family-owned business called Mayer Brothers. They are the largest cider bottler and processor in New York State, and they're out of West Seneca. And I'm very proud of that relationship because we've worked very hard with those folks over the last 3 years to really bring our product to market, and they've been very instrumental in helping us get there, and they continue to be a solid partnership with us. And why I'm so proud of that relationship is not just because what they've helped us with, but because of what they also do. And they buy from exclusively 200 New York family-owned farms and crush hundreds of tons of apples, hundreds of thousands of tons of apples every single year, and bring their products to market. And so very much no different than tree water or maple juice. They're harvesting apples and apple juice. So it's a great symbiotic relationship where we can leverage their great facility and our relationships in the western part of New York State to be able to create opportunities for maple farms in that location, opportunities for them in their bottling plant at a time of year where they don't have a lot being processed in the glass plant where we're being processed. And so, we have just development of great relationships, great partners with, we tried to build that infrastructure today. It would cost us tens of millions of dollars. And so we found great partners in Mayer Brothers and folks from Western New York.
Well, that's a depressed area, too. So anything you can do to help, upstate New York is fabulous, too.
It absolutely is. We're creating jobs and creating economy, and that's the we just hired 2 folks in Buffalo this last week, and we're going to continue to do that. And it's just as a growing company, making an impact on areas of the region that have economic hardships that need economic opportunity. Yet again, another impact of our business. We're creating economies out of waste streams, and that to me is the most exciting thing that we could have done.
Yeah, how about international? Did you ever think about something like that, like areas where, poverty. Like it's so hard to reach. They have to walk like 20 miles just to get water and bring it back. And if it's something that the trees are like close by, and like for instance Africa or something like that, it could benefit them. Something like this, no?
Well, when I first got in this business, I looked at maple from a perspective of I know nothing, right? I'm a product developer in the military and law enforcement space, making defense-related, protective devices for soldiers and law enforcement folks. I had no business being in the beverage business, I guess they say, or in the maple business for that matter. And I looked at it, and I had the same question you did. Is where can else this be done? And I think, when I started evaluating what really makes this work is this cyclical period of warm days and cold nights that we find here in New England in the springtime and the fall. And so this can actually be conducted in 2 seasons out of the year, although we traditionally see it done here in the springtime because, the sugar content is greater at that time. This has to be done in a place where you have high volume of sap producing trees. And in order to be done cost effectively, there has to be a primary product like sugar, maple sugar, in this case, birch sugar or birch syrups or something else in another species case. In order for this to actually be unless you're going to pay $5 or $6 a bottle, which then of course doesn't make sense in impoverished nations. So there's a couple market dynamics, and then of course temperature and geographic, should I say, dynamics working for or against this. It depends on how you look at it.
Right.
What states in the Northeast and the Atlantic region have, a maple syrup industry? Because everybody thinks it's just sort of New York and Vermont.
Well, it's interesting. You can actually produce maple syrups and birch syrups, even walnut syrups, as far south as Tennessee, as far north as Quebec, east to Minnesota, and west to Minnesota, east to Maine. So there's a huge swath of the United States. It touches about a third of the nation, and then Canada. There's about 11 to 12 producing states that can actually produce these products, and so we can literally have impacts in every part of the Midwest all the way to the Northeast to some of our southern partner states. So it's really an enormous opportunity, and to me, it's so opportunistic that you look at the bottled water industry in the United States alone, and it's $14 billion space, and you look at how it's growing to be the number one consumable beverage category above and beyond carbonated soft drinks, because people are getting wise to the fact that there's sugar and disease associated with high consumption of sugar and processed sugars. And so, this is nothing but opportunistic for every farm that's involved in processing of syrups of any kind.
Let's talk about dirt for a minute. Talk about the soil dynamics, because obviously, I guess you need a certain kind of soil that retains at least enough water to be able to be a delivery system to the tree itself. So how does all that interplay?
Well, sure. So I'm coming from a perspective of the average bear here. So I'm not, a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. So I would be remiss to say I know what I'm talking about in that respect. But what I would say is this: is that we all know the basics of the water cycle, right? Every fourth grader in America can tell you that plants consume water and transpire water through their crown, creating atmosphere, which creates rain, which creates the water cycle, right? And that goes on and on and on. So even in drought conditions where plants are surviving, plants are absorbing moisture from the earth all the time, and they're consuming that. And so soil composition, I think, is one question, and water concentration or drought or lack of drought conditions is probably a separate issue altogether. So I think, when it comes to, the trees being able to do this, those warm days and cold night cycles often happen in periods of low to no drought, at the spring and fall months where we either have, the fall rains or the spring melt, spring thaw. So it allows us to get into the time frame where these trees are not truly affected by water conditions. Soil condition, I really couldn't speak to that per se, but in terms of water quality, the tree is a natural purifier, right? It's the lungs of our planet. If you think about it that way, we've always known that it takes in carbon dioxide and produces oxygen, right? And that's a beautiful thing about trees in the world, and that's why we have even set aside one day a year to celebrate them. But one thing that we don't pay attention to often enough is the fact that they also absorb a lot of water and can be considered a living well during certain periods of time of year. And that if we just consider for the moment that we have truly interesting sources that, even if it doesn't replace all of our groundwater consumption, even if it doesn't do that, even if it replaces 20% because it's producing 20% of the time, we've done the environment a huge favor by taking the load off of the stress off the water table and being able to utilize a different resource. And so I like to tell people this, and we don't sell a bottle of water. We have a product that we sell that manifests itself in the form of a bottle of water, and you can enjoy a great drink. But what we do sell is the paradigm shift in the way people think about consumption of natural resources. Because a bottle of water, there's lots of products that taste good out there on the market. You have many of choices. There's 200 bottled water brands out there. And water, at the end of the day, elementally is pure water. It comes from different sources, and it all has different levels of purity. And that's fine, and they all cost about the same, roughly speaking. But none of them have a positive environmental impact. And so when you can make the conscious choice of do this, not that, for the same price and take that out of the equation, now we can sell a higher level of consciousness and engage a higher level of participation with people that then looks to support the environment in terms of, soil quality and water content and all those other wonderful impacts that we can continue to improve upon.
It's an incredible story.
Will you be selling this throughout the whole country? I mean, looking at your website, it looks like it's only available mostly in the Northeast. Will you be expanding so everyone can get this?
That's our plan. When you start a company like this, I would say that you don't realize what you got yourself into until you find yourself in the middle of it. And when we got into the beverage business, this is a piece of cake. I can make a beverage, and then you realize, there's anybody can make a beverage, and suddenly there's thousands of people competing in this space because it's a low barrier to entry. And so our goal is to bring this product all across the country, but that takes time, right? It takes participation, and it takes distributors, and it takes retailers, and endless amounts of buckets of money, right? And that's to tell our story and get our name out there and get folks participating, and so there's always the barriers that to take it to the next level. So we said, what can we do today? So over the last 12 months, when we ran our first full production run in 2016 in April, we said, let's focus on New England. That's where we are. That's where our product is made. And that's the market that we can affect the most. And we did well. We went out to market, and we found ourselves in several hundred stores of distribution between a variety of different channels and doing well. And now, we're going into, regional grocery, and that will parlay into national distribution through the distributors that we've partnered with to bring us into the regional grocery chains. So it is definitely scalable for us. We hope to see ourselves in, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Sprouts and, all the big names, including Kroger's and Safeways and the like across the country. But you got to start somewhere. I like to tell my 9-year-old daughter, you can't eat the elephant all at once, but since you have to eat the elephant, where do you want to start? And I always recommend starting somewhere like at the trunk, because at least it's the most palatable.
Yeah.
I heard it was a little chewy, but that's another story.
That's right.
And we have a minute before we have to take our next break. But maybe when we come back, talk a little bit after the break about your internal corporate structure, not on a technical legal basis, but you need to do all this networking. And Rick Frishman wrote a book called Networking Magic, and he's a phenomenal networking guy. And it seems like one of the things that your corporate governance has is the ability to create great networking opportunities. So maybe when we come back after the break, you could talk about sort of how the company is sort of run and how all these great partnerships are procured and, really given like a lot of growth in life. So we'll take that up right after this break. This is Richard Solomon, Antonio Saillant, Rick Frishman, your co-hosts on Taking Care of Business and Rocket Green Radio, and we are with Adam Lazar, and we'll be right back after this. Keep it locked in. All right, we are back. Richard Solomon, Rick Frishman, Antonio Saillant, Taking Care of Business with Adam Lazar. Again, the name of your company is?
We are Asarasi, spelled Asarasi, at Asarasi.com.
And what does that mean? It's Latin?
Yeah, this is the Latin for the sugar maple tree. And, the idea was that our water, we were a bottled water company, and then our water comes from the roots of the sugar maple tree, and therefore our name comes from the roots of the language, the Latin.
There you go. Wow. All right. So before we started this last segment, and it's moving along, thanks to Rick and Antonio, who are just tremendous co-hosts here. How is the business sort of run from the top, and how do you get all these great partnerships? I almost feel like the Joker in Batman, where he goes, "Where does he get all these great toys?" like that. Where do you get all these great networks?
I think it really is the power of the idea itself. The power of simplicity and the power of, how engaging. When you tell someone the story for the first time, as all your listeners are hearing now for likely the first time.
Oh, I'm sure this is all brand new to a lot of people out there.
Absolutely. And the first thing that people say is, and every time I tell our story, and I go out and personally do a lot of sampling events and a lot of just, kind of stumping and because that's what's required in any new business. And the first thing people ask me is, how the hell do you get water out of trees? And when you tell them, they say, I had no idea. And then the second question they ask is, what does it taste like? And you give them a sample. And how much is it? And it's that power of engagement and activation around this thought. You've taught them something that they never even knew was possible. They never would have put conscious thought around. It never would have occurred to someone ever that this would have ever been even possible. And when you shape someone's perception of reality with honesty and truth, you don't have to make up marketing baloney to be able to sell a product. You just have to be. And what I love about this product and I love about this business is that we don't have to craft the story. The product itself is the story. And you then get to choose whether you want to participate in that story or not. And I think that's how powerful networks are made. Some of the best ideas, you've heard this expression over and over again, the best ideas are the simplest ideas. And I think that's some of the simplest ideas with the biggest impacts, I think are the power of the network. And so when how do I get started in this? It's an enormous, task to say, hey, I'm going to do this. That's the easy thing to say. The hard thing to do is execute. And for years, I didn't know how to execute. I went home and wrote this business plan, so inspired seeing this, and the light bulb went off in 2008. And I wasn't able to do anything with it until, 2013, late 2013, early 14. And why? Why did it take me, 6 years wasn't because I didn't want to get off my duff and do something with it. It was because the sheer enormity of and scale of and the barriers to get into this business that existed that I was faced with. And so the only way I could get it done was networking. And so I had this idea, and I talked to my dad about this idea, and for many days, and my dad just started, Adam, don't quit your day job. Don't quit your day job. You're making great money. Don't screw that up. Okay, Dad, I got it. And one day he called me up. He said, Adam, there's this business plan competition. You got to enter it. I said, oh, okay. What is it? He tells me, there's this competition out of Buffalo called 43 North and 43north.org. I said, I got to go check that out. So I went and I checked it out. And, oh, wow. The state of New York has set up this, this business idea competition for anybody in the world to participate in. And they're giving away $5 million. That was 2014. I entered that competition, and out of I want to say it was like some 12 or 13,000 applications from around the globe, from dry cleaners in India to God knows what else, everywhere else. They were swamped with applications, and lo and behold, we ended up in the top 100.
Wow!
And we didn't win, but we won. We didn't win any money. We didn't get to the finals. We did not win that year.
Wow!
And now I had credibility, but before the finalists were announced, I said, wow, I got credibility. People think it's a great idea. And so I solicited the support of Senator Catherine Young out of Olean, Cattaraugus County, in the district she represents there. I found a farm in the district that she represents there and asked for her support. Went to the bottling plant that I could find in Western New York and said, hey, can I have your support? This is what we want to do. And went to everybody I could find in that ecosystem and said, this is what we want to do. This is why you should pay attention, because people think it's a great idea. Look, we're in the top 100 of this world's biggest business competition. And suddenly people started to pay attention, but before that I couldn't get anybody to answer the phone.
Wow.
And I realized I had something. I didn't win. And I said, okay, well, I got to invest now. I've made commitments to do this. I sold my house and invested the money in the business and, applied to that same competition in year 2 that they had it. Not even a response back. Oh, I guess that's over. Year 3, Hail Mary pass. I applied to this again last year in 2016, and we won 3rd place, $500,000 in that competition. And it's been just an absolute godsend to the company, and truly such a huge opportunity for us as a business and a going concern trying to compete in a very saturated marketplace. So, and just a little plug for those guys, 43north.org, they are a phenomenal, business idea competition. They're taking applications now. So if you're one of those listeners that has a beautiful idea, go apply. That's the power of networking. And it's about the power of relationships and supporting those partners that support you. And so every day that I go out there, I look to engage with people around the idea, and those people think the idea is so powerful that they want to support us. And then by way of supporting us, that we can support them. And so it's very symbiotic. A great example, I went and spoke at the Connecticut Sustainability Business Council last night as one of their guest speakers and met some phenomenal folks in the sustainability space. David Levine, the founder of American Sustainable Business Council, and he came up to me after he was the keynote speaker, and he came up to me after and he said, "That was a great talk you gave. I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. I want to help you." And I looked at him and I said, "That's great. Let's connect. I want to help you." Right? And it's very symbiotic. And he laughed, but it's true. It's all about one hand washes the other for us. So that's to answer your question in a long roundabout way. As our corporate structure and governance kind of networking, how did we cultivate this culture of network? It's just the power of an engaging idea.
I take it you don't sleep a lot, but who helps you kind of run sort of the big stuff? And not so by
You
name,
know,
but more like by job category, because it just seems like it's an overwhelming number of responsibilities. There's the marketing, there's the product development, there's the finding of the farmers, there's finding the tank guys, there's the processing, there's buying the bottles, there's the packaging, there's the internet guy, there's the social media people. I mean, the list seems endless. And then, of course, you need to go to 43north.org. I'm sure you didn't just take something and convert to PDF and upload, and that was the end of that.
No, you're right. There is a sheer amount. It is a lot of hard work. I won't kid you. This is oftentimes after the kids go to bed, that's when my day starts, and then you still get up from at 6 a.m. and do it all over again. So, there's to me this is this is not something you can do on your own. So how I really got started was I approached folks in business that I felt were knowledgeable, that could point me in the right direction, that could just, be available to pick up the phone whenever I could call them. And, so I found, one individual with great business experience that had started several brands in the, the consumer space, and had worked with that individual, not very closely, but had enough of a relationship that I could ask them to be a mentor. And I just surrounded myself with a sheer number of folks I had previously worked with in one capacity or another that had different sets of unique experiences, maybe financial, marketing, social media in that space, brand building, just manufacturing. So I just kind of cherry picked folks that I knew had a set of experiences that I didn't have that would be available to me to help guide me in my decision making. And I think one of the things I learned as an officer in the Army Guard was, you're always going to be, when you come in as an officer, you're often the youngest guy in the group, and you have these senior sergeants you outrank, and you don't learn, you don't lead by force, you lead by example, and sometimes I think that's a misunderstood statement. You listen to those that around you have the operational mindset and experience that come from years of wisdom that help you lead by example, their example. And so that's what I did, and you can't, it's truly in the strength of the team that I found my success, and truly we're continuing to grow, and we haven't reached the milestones that I want to see the company reach yet. So I think success is a moderate term, but I look at it as just surround yourself with as many wise people that are brilliant, that you truly believe are light years ahead of you, and they'll help guide you.
What is the greatest marketing challenge, and what is the greatest manufacturing challenge that you have?
Marketing is in this space is all about consumer awareness. If nobody knows who you are, it doesn't matter how many grocery store shelves you're on. It doesn't matter how many restaurants have you available behind the bar. But if nobody knows you, they don't see you, they don't ask for you, at the end of the day, they don't care about you. Because why? They don't know they don't even know you exist. So our biggest challenge today is really engaging a lot of voices in the community. I like to believe that with today's technology, it takes a community to build a brand. Just like it takes a community, I believe, to raise a child. There's truly a lot of powerful influence upon a company, a person, when you belong to a community. And with as much noise, white noise that comes at us from our email and our Facebook and Twitter feeds and all the nonsense that's out there, we have to filter through all that noise and find those gold nuggets. And so it's very difficult to do in this space. So our marketing challenge is awareness, and how we want to build awareness is by grassroots activism around the product and around the brand, that people really align themselves with who we are and care about Asarasi as a company. And the way they can do that is go to Asarasi.com, ASARASI.com, and sign up for our newsletter and become involved with who we are, and continue to and tell your friends and family about us that, hey, you know what, there's this company doing some great things that do this, don't do that at the same price, and everyone wins. It's a really simple value proposition. So that's how we think we can overcome that. Manufacturing challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. Coordinating the logistics of potentially thousands of maple producers all over the region. And I hope to grow to be that fortunate that we're, enabling that many family farms to make more money without more labor on their part. So, as we grow, the challenges will change and shift, but I think what will remain a constant is our dedication to solving those problems.
Are there any testing involved? I heard stories like, trees get infected, obviously, with bacteria and stuff like that. Do they test the maple, or do they test the water before it's all manufactured into the bottles and filtered?
Oh, absolutely. We do. Yeah, we have a very stringent HACCP plan, which is a hazard analysis and quality control procedure that is mandated by not just the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, but also the FDA. And so we conform to both stringent requirements. We not only test and batch lot test our products, but we also finished product test for adherence to high level quality standards, so that when you open a bottle of Asarasi, that product has been evaluated for any potential issues with bacteria or anything you would imagine. And so it's every single time we've tested this product, and we go out to third party analysis often. When you're a bottled water company, let's say you're taking water from a spring, no matter what your source, you have to source test your water. And there's allowable, under the FDA, there's allowable parts per million, let's say, of lead, cadmium, chromium, radon, heavy metals, that parts per million. Yeah, okay, they're 2, 3, 4 parts per million. Fine, they're allowable parts per million because, groundwater has these elements in them, and you can only take so much out. And if you're bottling up a spring water, that can happen. When we test our product against the same standards for groundwater sources, we check for about 75 different bad things that could potentially be in the product. And instead of finding parts per million anything, what we find is none detected, 75 times. And what we do find is manganese, potassium, calcium, all wonderful things for your body, and pure water. And so it's really been, when you look at the testing requirements, we embrace them happily because we know we have that high level of confidence in our product, not just from the purity of the source, but the purity, the maintaining that purity in our processing, that we know we can achieve the best quality standards in the marketplace.
Well, we only have a minute left. Are you guys going to do tours or things like that, or
Well, we are engaging with farm market vendors so that we can reach a large number of folks at any given location at any given time. So we're offering farm market vendors the opportunity to become brand ambassadors, and we're giving away a couple cases a month to one vendor at every farm market in New York State right now. So we're asking, if you're a farm market vendor and you go to those markets, reach out to us at ambassadors at asarasi.com, and tell us why you should be a brand ambassador for the brand, and we'll be happy to reach back out to you with opportunities to do that. And so it's about that community building, and we're going to be out there using folks like that to help leverage our name out there while giving them something fun and exciting to be a part of.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, we'll be touring everywhere.
We're basically out of time, but we'll be your radio ambassadors. On behalf of Antonio Saillant and Rick Frishman and myself, I want to thank you for your time with us today, and we'll be looking to see your great success in the future. Thanks, Adam Lazar, for being with us. We'll see everyone next week. Keep it safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.